It is the case of Ritchie versus DiStefano. This is the case of the white firefighters in Connecticut. And this had gone to a panel that included Judge Sotomayor. And they had ruled, as the Second Circuit has always ruled, that in this case you had to look at two factors. Now, first let me set up what the case is so then you'll understand what those two factors relate to. A bunch of firefighters go to take an exam for promotions. And a number of them pass. Whites, 41 whites, 9 blacks, and 6 Hispanics pass the first round of the exam. But as it turns out, only 17 whites and 2 Hispanics could expect a promotion. So they go to do this, and the firefighters in New Haven, Connecticut say no. The management says no. We have a disparate impact here. Since not very many minorities pass the test, perhaps there's something wrong with the test. And in fact, courts have ruled in the past that if we have this kind of disparate impact, that we cannot use that kind of a test. So we're not going to allow these promotions. Okay, so then it goes to the courts, and then eventually it gets to Sotomayor and her fellow judges in that circuit, and they say, yes, the rule in the Second Circuit has been you look at two factors in a case like this. Was there intentional discrimination, and was there disparate impact? Now, there could be no intentional discrimination, and you could still have an impact that gives you too many, for lack of a better way of putting it, white candidates or for promotion in this case, and sometimes it's for, of course, getting the job in the first place. And so they applied the rule, and they said that the firefighting management in New Haven was right, that they should not have done the promotions based on this test. That went to the Supreme Court, and this week the Supreme Court ruled no. On a 5-4 decision, they overturned it and said disparate impact is not relevant anymore. Now, what have been the reaction here? The conservatives have taken the case and said, you see that? Judge Sotomayor rebuked by the Supreme Court. This has to be embarrassing. You see that? Here, I got a great quote for you from Judicial Confirmation Network, which is, of course, a conservative group, saying, "This is pilot error resulting in a bad plane crash, and now the pilot is being offered to fly Air Force One." Okay, that's very cute. Now, the only problem is it's 5-4. The 5 conservatives voted for it. The 4 liberals voted against it. So there is no right answer here. This thing is, as it happens with the Supreme Court all the time, are basically political questions. It's not like if you consult the manual for how to make Supreme Court decisions, well, obviously, the Ritchie case was going to go in this direction. No, the conservatives voted one way and the liberals voted another way. And if Sotomayor was going to take the place of one of the conservative justices, and she won't be, she'll be taking the place of Souter, who was one of the 4 who voted basically with the management and against the firefighters. If she was taking the place of one of the conservatives, then all of a sudden the Supreme Court would have ruled 5-4 against the firefighters and for the management. So then with the correct decision, we wouldn't have had a bad plane crash. The correct decision would have been that there was this disparate impact and they shouldn't have had the test. So, and they shouldn't have used the test for the promotions. Now, so to make that argument is absurd. Now, the second part of the argument that the conservatives make against her is, you see that judicial activism, but the Supreme Court stamped it out. The only problem is that's not true. The judicial activism here is the Supreme Court saying, hey, you know what? We're going to reverse what the Second Circuit has been doing for the last 25 years, and we're going to come up with a new standard. And the new standard is you must show intent to discriminate. Because if you take away disparate impact, then you have to show intent. So now that's a whole new standard, and that's very relevant not just for Sotomayor's confirmation. That's, obviously it'll be something that'll have political impact in that confirmation process, but it's fairly important precedent for the whole country. So now if you're going to have these tests, you have to show discrimination basically. You can't just say, hey, you know what, we had an impact that, we had a result that showed that we had racial discrimination here, whether it was intended or not. Now, what are my thoughts on the Supreme Court decision? I think it's time. I think they made the right decision. Now, you have to be careful here, because if you say you have to prove intent, that sometimes is an awfully hard thing to do, and you don't want to set a standard that's too tough for proving discrimination. But at the same time, to say, hey, you know what, more whites scored better on that exam, hence the exam must have been wrong. At this stage, I think that's an argument that was persuasive in the past. It's sometimes persuasive to me as well. But I think today, I don't find it persuasive. Maybe the guys who did the best on that exam just happened to be 17 whites and 2 Hispanics. And that doesn't somehow prove to me that the test was rigged against blacks or Hispanics or Asians or Indians or whatever it might be. Now, what the exact standard should be, is a good question. And I'm not saying that I'm coming out one way or another definitively on this and saying you have to prove intent. But if the Supreme Court says we're going to move beyond disparate impact and you could just flat out show that you got a bad result and that's good enough to invalidate a test like this, I don't think that's an outrageous decision. I think that's a decision you might argue with, but a sensible decision. All right, JR.
But it's still worth at least looking into. When you see a pattern of something happening, you at least have to have some kind of regulation on the fact that it could go completely the other direction. When they go, oh, they just took off the gloves, they just loosened completely of all regulations. Let's make it happen. Mm-hmm. In more situations than just the banks, there needs to be some kind of oversight on how things are done. As long as go ahead, chill a little bit, but then don't go, okay, as long as you guys handle yourselves, especially when people are still willing to do things like that. We've come a long way, and it's not over. That's all.
I agree completely with you, JR, and that's a good point. And that's why I'm saying I'm not telling you definitively what the standard should be, okay? Because if you say to me, hey, we have to find a way to take into account the results without that being definitive, or as they say in law, dispositive, right? Then I hear you, because then you can go and do an exam. I don't know how you could get whites to pass and blacks to fail or Hispanics to fail. I don't know. What do? You put a bunch of questions about Bing Crosby? I don't know. I don't know what's really white and not black at all. I don't know. But there probably is a way. In the past, I mean, it's not kidding around stuff. They did do that kind of finagling of the tests to get the results that they wanted, right? And sometimes it wasn't even intentional. They would put things in there that I hate the old example that they use from the SATs. They say, a word like cupboard, and the black people might not know what a cupboard is, but, if you're in New Haven, Connecticut, and you're white, you might know what a cupboard is. Okay, that's a silly example, but there are real examples as well. And so I get that. But the bottom line is, we have to move beyond, I think, at this point, saying, hey, we just look at results. And if not enough blacks or Hispanics pass that test, then it must be a bad test. I'm not buying that anymore, okay? At the same time, I want it to be a smart test that doesn't put the burden on the victims, who says, well, if you can't show that the guy was evil in his head, well, then too bad. We're going to, invalidate that test. So have we reached a good middle ground with this decision? Not necessarily. But I see where they're going, and I don't think it's outrageous.